Hey guys, how's it going? Cray here. Today I would like to bring you guys a learner setup for the Colosseum. It's pretty affordable. It's below 100 million GP, which I think, yeah, 80 million. I think that generally speaking, the people that would be running this would probably be utilizing at least some type of gear over the 100 mil mark. So I think this kind of fits that bill. What could be upgraded? So this Eclipse Moon armor is like a hybrid melee ranged armor. It gives ranged attack bonus, which is just going to speed up our ranged weapons slightly whenever we're killing things that are south of the northwest pillar. And in addition to that, it also gives some strength bonus, so it helps our Fang out a little bit. Primarily, we're going to be utilizing the Osmumten's Fang to kill things. The three weapons that we have for the Fremniks, because you want to kill those as quickly as possible, would be the Trident of the Seas for the melee Fremnik, the Eclipse Adelatl with darts for the Seer, the mage Fremnik, and the Ceratum and Godsword one-shots the archer, but also we're going to be utilizing the SGS special effect to heal, because it's always a max hit on the archer. For that reason, we're also going to be using Light Bearer and Death Charge. That's going to essentially give us as much spec as we need to kind of maintain our HP throughout the waves without having to utilize too many brews. That's going to let us save the brews for the boss. Yeah, I think this is all pretty affordable gear, so with that being said, I will pre-pot and we'll get into it. And I'll kind of explain my invo choices as we get in there, but generally speaking, I choose invos that are going to affect my wave solves the least. So for that reason, I'm going to be picking things that are negative debuffs on me, but do not affect how I solve the wave. Because as long as you do that, how you solve the wave is pretty consistent. We're going to be using this tile here to start with, and at the beginning of every wave, we're going to be clicking this, what's known as the B5 tile, and then clicking this back rail here, specifically this tile, because this tile blocks line of sight of a lot of these minions that spawn in this area, and it pulls them in within about 4 tile range, which lets you hit that minion with a ranged weapon, with a 10 tile ranged weapon, as long as you have Myopia 3, which is going to be a beneficial thing to take, as long as we have our 10 tile ranged weapon. That's what the crystal bow is for. It's purely for killing things south of the northwest pillar without actually having to come out of the safety of the west side of northwest pillar. With that being said, we'll get started. I'll choose Blasphemy just because this is a negative debuff on me. All of these really are. Relentless is one where this takes away your ability to tank zeros. It's not too bad, but we want to avoid it if possible as a first caper. Frailty is one, it's similar to Blasphemy. It only reduces your HP from 99 to 90, and it means you can't be overhealed, but throughout the waves, you're really not going to be at 99 HP very often, so this isn't that bad of a debuff. So we're going to start with Blasphemy. So we're always going to start by killing off the melee Fremnik first, because he hits the hardest. From there, I'm going to kill off the Seer, and then I want to kill off the Ranger. And lastly, that just lets us DPS down the Seer, or the Shaman. And that's what we're going to do every wave. We kill the melee, we kill the Mage, and then we kill the Archer last. And I want to start on this tile over here if I can. And then we're going to do this whole tile run. The moment my true tile is on this one, I then click here. And I want to start with my Mage weapon so that I can kill the melee Fremnik. So we don't want to take Solar Flare because it makes orbs go around the pillar, which is going to affect how we solve some of these waves. So we're going to avoid that if possible. We'll take it if we need to, but right now we don't need to. Doom, this does not currently reset between waves, so if you get hit 20 times, your run is over. Wouldn't advise taking that one. Maybe after the rework, but as of recording this, the rework has not existed yet. And we'll just take Tier 2 of Blasphemy, because it's the same thing as Tier 1 essentially. We'll hit confirm and then run to our B5 tile. Run behind the pillar, we can immediately see the only thing that's going to hit us is the Shaman. So we're going to kill off the melee. Wait for my weapons cooldown to come up. We're praying Mage so we don't have to kite this guy, and then we can just SGS him, back up to full HP. So our 10 tower range weapon is actually to kill things south of the pillar here, but in this case, there's only 2 minions. We kind of want to speed this up, so we're just going to come to the side of the pillar. and attack this javelin. In later waves, if for some reason you didn't think you would be able to kill this before reinforcements, pre-wave 7, when you have the Jaguar, you can just stand in this tile. This is going to be a safe spot when he spawns out. You can go between these two to dodge the Javelin Colossus. We can just keep doing this back and forth. If we wanted, we could even kill this guy first, but it doesn't actually matter. The point is that these two tiles on the north side of Northwest Pillar are safe from the spawn of the Jaguar Warrior. Just gonna roll him down with our 10 tile range weapon. And the idea of this particular learning method is so that we don't have to really prayer flick anything. We're flicking as few things as possible because I kind of want to take into account that most new capers are not going to have that skill set just yet. So we can spam our SGS here. We basically never want to have 100 spec. I would say maybe you would want 50% going into a new wave so that you could hit the archer, since that's a guaranteed max hit. And we'll just fang this stuff down. Prayer is not really a concern, so just go ahead and drink your prayer potions as needed. Same with your bruise. The boss, once you get used to it, it's 0 damage, so you don't really take any damage from the boss. So we'll take Blasphemy 3 because we don't want to take Solar Flare, and Bees is not that great. I'll go ahead and pre-pot. I didn't start on this tile, but it's okay. We'll still go to that tile. Make sure I'm nice and healthy. I've got my mage weapon to kill the melee Fremnik. I'll pick Blasphemy 3. So here we see it's the ranger, and there's 2 things south of the pillar, so we're going to come to the other side. We'll just keep moving. Lastly, we'll kill the seer in 2 shots, and use death charge. And then we took some damage, we'll just heal it back up on this archer. And now we're in the same position as before, where it's just us and this ranger. So we could drag the ranger in, but there's 2 things here, and I don't want to get hit by both. So we're just going to go to our safe tile. That way when the Jaguar spawns in, we don't have to worry about doing anything fancy. We'll just dodge the javelin between these 2 tiles. We don't want to misclick him, so I'm just going to right click. A death charge off cooldown whenever I can. So in this case, we could flick these guys, right? We would go east of the pillar because he's hanging out, which means that he's going to see us first, and then this shaman would see us. So just to demonstrate that, I could step out, he would attack me, then I pray mage against the shaman, and I could just flick this forever. But there is a better method, in my opinion, and that's just dragging the shaman to us. So in order to do that, so that I don't have to do any fancy prayer flicking, I will just pray against the heavy thing. I'm going to tank the shaman for 1 hit, maybe throw an augury or something. I'll come kind of far back from the pillar, and then I'm going to walk in a diagonal. This is going to pull the shaman to me, and then I go into the pillar, which just pulls him around. This way I don't have to like do any fancy prayer flicking or anything like that between these 2 minions. I can, but you know, this is a first cape. I'm expecting learners to not really be able to do that well. And so we're just going to go ahead and, you know, show you guys the easy method, the path of least resistance. We have some specs, so we're going to send it because we don't want to just camp 100%. And we'll kill off this javelin. Or just dodge. And then I'll start on my tile. I'll equip my mage weapon, and we'll do it again. So we've got Quartet, Bees, and Frailty. In this particular case, I don't want to take Quartet because this affects my wave spawn, or my wave solve, right? It throws in another Fremnik, which means that my wave solve gets slightly more complicated. It's not very difficult to deal with once you're more experienced, but as a learner, I find that this one tends to overwhelm people, especially in the later waves when there are more complex things going on. Bees is the same thing. It's kind of like Quartet. It adds another thing, and that extra thing can sometimes mess up a learner. It's also worth noting that these two things affect the final boss. If you pick these, you're going to have bees in the final boss, which makes it a lot harder to complete. Same with Quartet. Quartet, you just get the one Fremnik at the beginning of the boss, but I've seen a lot of learners just die because they aren't prepared to deal with this guy. And that's just a waste of a run. So in this case, we're not going to be afraid of frailty, we'll just take it. It's just minus 9 HP. We can't overheal, but that's not a big deal. So I'm going to see if there's anything south. There's nothing south of the pillar. In this case, I'm going to pray melee because there's nothing else I have to protect against. Then I can pray mage and kill the major with my Ataladdle. And then lastly, I will heal up all this damage that I took on this Fremnik by using my SGS spec. And my HP is capped at 90, which is why I stopped there. And from here, we'll just kill the thing that is the easiest or quickest to kill, which is going to be this Serpent Shaman right here. Now, in this case, we are going to get a, starting wave 4, you get a mage and melee reinforcement. What that means is that if you can't kill these minions in time, and these guys come out, these reinforcements come out, you might be forced to deal with them in a way that is unconventional for you. For that reason, it's perfectly fine to just wait behind the pillar and wait for reinforcements to come and then deal with them. So in this case, I am just going to go ahead and kill the shaman because it's easier than flicking this manticore right now. And once I kill this shaman, the next one just slides right along. And it's worth noting that the manticore is not going to be able to see me from this tile. I could also be on this tile if this was like a javelin, and I would not be able to be seen by this manticore either, or whatever this minion would be. So these two tiles are safe. So we're going to step back, let him drag to us, and then do it again. So this Manticore is the first, like, I guess, complex mob in the Colosseum. He will choose either mage, range, melee, or range, mage, melee. He'll never start with melee. And you'll have to flick between those one tick at a time. You have one tick to flick in that cycle, whatever it displays. So it charges up for 5 ticks. The next 5 ticks are it shooting mage, melee, or mage, range, melee, or range, mage, melee. And then there's 2 ticks of downtime. So it's a 10 tick cycle in total. So I'm just going to get my potions. I could heal a little bit from the SGS, or a little bit of prayer. So I'm going to hit it, and then I'll equip my thing and just wait to see what it is. So it's mage, so I'm just going to flick, mage, range, melee. And that's it. That's all there is to this mob. We'll run back to our start tile, and we're good to go. Equip our spear, or our trident, so that we can kill the melee. And we'll look at our invos. So Relentless here makes it so that you can't tank any damage because off prey hits will always hit you. They'll never hit 0. So we don't want to take that just yet. Reentry is a DPS check, right? So what that does is when the Javelin Colossus throws a javelin, a spear in the air, once it lands, it leaves behind a ragged molten sand tile, which you can't stand on or else you take damage over time. I say it's a DPS check because as you get later into the waves, you're going to get situations where you need to hide behind this pillar and range down with your 10 tile range weapon, a javelin, colossus, or two that are south of the pillar. If you are ragging your tiles, you're going to be forced to step from out of these 6, which then means that you'll have to come this side, which is going to untrap the reinforcements that come later. And it just makes your life kind of miserable, if I'm being honest. So this is one we're going to want to take much later, maybe on like wave 10 or 11. For now, we'll just take Frailty 2. It just lowers our HP to 80, which is scary at first, but in practice, it's not that big of a deal. So we'll do our little run. We'll equip our trident. We'll identify what's coming to the south. We see it's 2 things, the Manticore and the Mage, and then we will pray range against the 1 thing that's on this side. And then we'll kill the melee. So 1 shot, 2 shots. We're going to kill the Seer. We're going to max heal off of this guy. We're going to try to kill this guy before the reinforcements come. If they do come, it's not a big deal. We'll have to do a little bit of prey flicking. I know that I'm probably not going to make the check, so I'm just going to come over here preemptively. I'm going to get ready to prey flick. So he just attacked, so I'm going to pray mage, and now we're set. Once he shoots his spear in the air, we're going to have to dodge. So that's the minimal prayer flicking. From here, we could kill the shaman if we wanted. Let's say that we are like low HP or something and we wanted to get some blood fury heals, we could kill the shaman from here. And we could also kill this guy if we just kind of want to decompress and relax a little bit. Need to use death charge as well, since we've got it. And we could turn off and just kill this guy. In this case though, I'm going to death charge or use my SGS because I want to heal maybe a little bit of prayer. And we hit a 0, that's okay. So as you can see, having this 10 tower range weapon is pretty useful. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a heavy ballista on long range, whatever. It's just useful for getting out of sticky situations like that. In this case, if I step out on this side, I'm fairly certain that this Manticore will see me if I'm stepping here. So instead I'm going to come over here and kill the Manticore from this side. I'm not sure if this Shaman will actually see me or not. It may. Let's find out. And it does not. So we'll just kill it from this side. We'll death charge because it's on cooldown. We'll send an SGS for some prayer perhaps. He's dead. I can go ahead and pick up my brew now if I want. So I'm going to equip my trident. And we've got Doom, Bees, and Reentry. So in this case, we don't want Doom because we might take more than, 20 hits throughout the entire run and die. Bees affects our boss, so from here it's Reentry. Reentry does not affect the boss, but it will give us a slight DPS check like I spoke about earlier. But in this case, it's the least offensive of these 3, so we're going to go ahead and pick it. Our death charge because it's on cooldown. And we send it. So we do have a ranger on both sides. In this case, I'm just going to drag everything, and then I'm going to run to the south pillar. Once I'm down here, I'm going to kill the melee. We're going to corner trap this ranger here. And now we're safe. So now we just wait for reinforcements. And as long as we stand on this corner trap, this guy can never become unlocked. We're going to get our 10 tower range weapon ready. And we know that it's going to be a mage and a jaguar warrior, so we're going to pray mage. Pray melee once he hits us, and then pray mage again. And now they're off-ticked. We're going to kill the warrior first, just because it's a little bit quicker than killing that mage with the crystal bow. He's dead. And now we can just deal with the major. It's worth noting that if we had Myopia 1, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's 5 tiles away, so we could have up to Myopia 2 to deal with this guy. If not, we would just wait for him to attack us and then step back and then off-tick prayer these guys. That's one of those situations where you'd probably have to do a little bit of prayer flicking. But like I said, I'm trying to show you guys solves that minimize that. So I'm just going to pray range. And we know that we have re-entry, so he's going to rag a tile. So we're gonna want to rag not tiles that we want to use. So we'll come out here, rag that tile. And we've got 5 more attacks before he rags another tile. So this next one is gonna rag. We'll come back. Next one is gonna rag. So we've got a ranged Manticore with a Javelin Colossus that's also ranged. We know that this guy's going to rag our tiles, so we need to be cognizant of that as we're doing this stack, solving this stack. In this particular case, I think that I'm probably, I could just come out here and attack this guy because he would be the same style as the way that he's starting, just to show you what that looks like. It's just a regular Manticore flick. You don't even bother with flicking the Ranger. Just a regular Manticore flick. But we know that he's going to rag tiles like he just did. So you could always flirt with the idea of going to this east pillar now. This is not the Inferno. You actually want to use all your pillars if you feel like you're in a sticky situation. And in this case, we're not, but I just kind of want to show you what's going to happen. So what will happen here is this guy and maybe this shaman will drag to the west side of this pillar. This Manticore will continue to drag, but he's going to end up seeing us on the north side of the pillar, and so that's the one that will DPS down. We're just going to do a regular Manticore flick here, and then pray range, and wait for everything to resolve. Like I said, he'll see us, and then we'll just kill the Manticore. So this solve is less stressful than having to deal with ragged tiles from the Javelin Colossus and a Manticore flick, which is why I opted for this solve. I think this is a more beginner-friendly solve. And we're 100 spec, so we want to send the SGS. We're going to be overflowing in spec, so we definitely want to send it whenever we can, just for extra prayer and HP. And it's dead. So from here, we could do some off-ticking, right? We could like step out and flick these guys. We would step out from the right side because he would see us first. We would flick range then mage. But in this case, we have our 10 tower range weapon. We just want to outrange the shaman. We don't have myopia or anything. We're just going to make this as easy as possible on us. And then once he rags all of these tiles, we're just going to go to the other side. And he'll die well before we rag all of the tiles. And if you wanted to as well, we could we know that he's going to rag every 5th attack. So if we wanted to, we could just step in on the 5th attack, rag one of these tiles, and then step back out. And that would just look like this. Rag that tile on the inside of the pillar, because we're not using that tile. He'll rag this tile, I'll just step forward. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if we step on this tile, I believe yeah, the shaman can see us from there. That's why we're using these back tiles back here. And I want to start my wave on this tile all the way over here, so we're just going to run over and drag it back to the northwest. And to kind of clarify, whenever you see a double, like 2 mobs south of this pillar, and also 2 mobs east of this pillar, that's when you would then run to this side, this southwest pillar. If it's 2 and 2, 2 south, 2 east, you run to the south pillar, and then you step on that corner trap there, and the way that resolves is things stack up on the north side, and everything that doesn't, if there's 2, they will then corner trap perfectly. They'll slide to you from the east side and get corner trapped. That's only if you step on this tile right here first, though. Let me join a party. There we go. That's only if you step on this tile. You start the wave on this tile to drag everything in, and then when you transition to this tile and then this tile, things on the east side corner trap, they slide and corner trap on this tile, and they can't see you from here. From here, this is just a regular single minion to kill, and then we're into the second half of the Colosseum, which is wave 7+, which has a Minotaur instead of a Jaguar, which is actually unironically easier to deal with. So we've got Frailty 3, Bees, and Doom Scorpion. Doom Scorpion is a no-go. Bee is also something we don't want to take, so we'll just take Frailty 3. It seems a little scary because our HP is going to go down to 60, but at the end of the day, if you pay attention to our solves, we're not really getting very low, right? Like, we're only ever killing one thing at a time or taking damage from one thing at a time, so 60 HP is not a big deal. So I've got this Colossus, which is a mage minion. So we pre-mage, and we kill the melee Fremnik. Then we kill the mage seer. And then we just heal it back up. We pray piety, we heal up on this guy. So I could drag this guy in by standing on these tiles, these north tiles. But that's going to unlock this northeast minion, which we don't want to do just yet. So instead, we're just going to range this guy down with our 10 tile range weapon. And as you can see, even if we had Myopia 3, which affects our attack range, we could still hit this guy because he's less than 4 tiles away. Whenever you step on this tile here, it drags things in within 4 tiles, which is why we want to start by clicking B5 and then clicking on this tile to drag things in. This guy is a new minion. He can actually be safe spotted on any of these 4 rows, or tiles, sorry, because he's a 3x3. He hits a 74, I think, is the max, so you don't want to tank him off prey. And if he's within 5 or 6 tiles of another minion that is damaged, he will heal it to full health. So you always have to kill this guy first. If you can't get the other minions, within 6 tiles away. So I have SGS specs, so I'm just going to send them. And we're 60 HP, we're full again. I've got another SGS spec. I could send it, but I'll just save it for the archer for next wave so that I can heal up any damage that I take at the beginning of the wave. And then we'll kill this manticore. I'll use my potions since I have them. So another SGS. Because I had it, so why not? Then we'll unlock this minion finally because it's the last one. Let him drag over here. Just chill. That way we can make it back to our start tile. I would say that the biggest part of Colosseum is just realizing that there's a solve for every wave and not panicking. As long as you don't panic, you're okay. start here. We equip our trident. We'll prayer potion up, because we always want to start as full as possible. If we take damage because we have Blasphemy 3, it's going to smite us. So we never want to be in a position where we can get smited fully. I'll throw this on too just to save some boost potion. With Death Charge as well, because it's off cooldown. So Doom, we already explained. Quartet, we explained. Rag's our boss. It makes the wave solve more complicated. Volatility, they just explode on death. That doesn't affect our solve. It just means that when they die, we need to move. And that's perfectly fine. So it's a shocker, so I'm going to pray mage again. First things first, you want to kill this guy, this melee. We're going to kill the seer. Remove because they blow up. And we want to put on piety and just heal our HP back to full. And this is the same thing, we're just going to kill this guy from 4 tiles away if we had myopia 3. So this triple stack, it looks kind of scary, but it's really not. All we're going to do is utilize the southwest pillar. This is one of those situations where it's good that the Manticore is not charged, because if he was a mage Manticore, we would have to tank a little bit of damage, but in this case we don't. So we'll just destack these going to the south pillar, and we'll kill these one at a time, which is a lot easier than killing everything, right? So we kill him first, then we kill the Manticore, or the Minotaur. Remember to pray melee against this guy. He hits a 74 or whatever, and our HP's capped at 60 right now, so that's not good. And he blows up, right? So we want to move away. So whenever we're running to the southwest pillar, we want to start on this far west tile right here. That's because the third minion in the stack, if it's different from the first two, it reaches us like 2 ticks late, so you could actually pray against it if it was like a Mage Colossus. From here, we're going to click this tile. See how he's still dragging, and then finally he hits us? And then the result is that it's exactly like Wave 6, where everything was attacking us. We saw the double east, double south, and so we just went ahead and utilized this corner trap. And now we can kill this one at a time. So I don't know how far along he is in this cycle. I think it's 3 attacks before he rags a tile. So I'll just start with ranged out here and rag one of these tiles because I don't care about it. And then I'll use my Fang for some DPS. And then I'll count and then rag a different tile on the 5th attack. 3 rags, we come up. So this is number 4. So we're going to step out here to rag this tile on number 5. And then he's going to rag this next one, but he died instead. We like that too. I don't know where he is in the cycle, so there we go. So now I can count to 5 and just rag these tiles. And he's gonna rag, because it's number 5. And remember, he's gonna explode, so we need to move away when he dies. There we go. So once again, I want to be on this northwest side, so I'm just gonna flick the Manticore and come back to this side. Drag him a little bit. Death charge. And as you can see, we're pretty healthy on prayer. You don't really need to flick. I tend to flick just because there's not really much else to do. We're only ever killing one mob at a time, so why not? But you could just hard camp prayers if you wanted. Oh, I missed an attack there. That's okay. Too busy talking. Send the SGS. as you can see, like with Death Charge and Light Bearer, we've got plenty of spec. We have more than enough to go into the next wave with 50 spec after we kill this guy to heal up off of the ranged Fremnik. He'll explode, so we come over here, equip our trident. We're gonna potion. I'll go ahead and re-combat potion. So here, we don't want to take re-entry 2 because it leaves a permanent puddle, right? Volatility 2 is just a slightly larger blow-up radius. And Totemic we spoke about, it's only really good with the Venator, so we don't have a Venator, so we're going to choose Volatility 2. And there's nothing, this is free, so we pray melee, so we don't take the melee hit. I'm going to pray mage. I want to move 2 tiles away. I'm going to pray range. And I want him to blow up over here, right, so I've got space. I just blow him up. Now the wave is solved. So here we just wait for reinforcements. We're nice and patient. I can actually show you something kind of neat with this guy. So this is actually a corner trap. If you start here, it's a corner trap for whatever is at the beginning, at the front, which I'll show you after I kill this Minotaur. And he's going to blow up, and the safe tile is always going to be 2 tiles away. So it's the south row. And here, if I just pray range and equip this 10 tile weapon, in this case he's going to rag this tile, and I can't move because it'll unlock this. But this is the same corner trap that was on the south pillar. So if I just click this, you'll see that the Manticore can't actually see me. And I can just kill this guy for free. Now in this case, he's going to rag this tile, so we're going to want to come up here because we want to use this tile to melee this Manticore. And that charges him up, but he happens to be the same style Manticore, which is perfectly fine. So this is just a regular Manticore flick. So in this case, I will flick the Manticore, do a hit, and then rag one of these back tiles. And then kill this guy. He's going to rag another tile. And if you're not as comfortable doing this melee step out to deal with this rag tile, you could also just, use the 10 tile range weapon or whatever if you don't have myopia yet, and just kill this Manticore from far away. Doing the same Manticore flick. Yeah, he rags a tile now, but we can just range. We don't have to worry about like going in and out of melee range. This is a lot more relaxed. I'm a little bit more comfortable with this, so I'll just go ahead and do this for better DPS. Missed a flick, it's fine. Just gonna rag a tile. And he's dead. So we'll go ahead and drag him up. And in this case, if we start here, we can then just walk out here, and this guy will not unlock. So we'll start here. We'll walk out here, and this is perfectly fine. We can go all up and down, and it's not going to unlock this Manticore. So now I can rag all of these tiles. A lot more space to work with. He's going to blow up, so we run away. And notice that them blowing up does not affect how we solve this wave at all. We just had to move at the end of the death animation, which is not a big deal. We unlock this guy, and we just kill him like normal. Blows up, we come back over here. So wave 10 is the start of the waves where you get a Minotaur and a Mage. This is very similar to the Jaguar plus Mage, where now if you have stuff south of the pillar, that Mage is like another thing to pray against, which could actually deal some pretty decent damage against you. So now it's important to solve waves a little bit faster, just so that we can kill them before this Mage comes out. It's 50-50 whether the Mage is first or second, so it's worth considering. You could win that 50-50 and it's the Minotaur first and then the Mage gets trapped behind him, but you might lose it, and if that's the case, you need to be prepared to handle that Mage in some method. That could be just brute forcing it down and using your bruise, but the better method is to just then flick between whatever's down here and the Major, and you'd only have to flick if it's like a Manticore or a Javelin Colossus. If it's a Shockwave Colossus, it's fine. So I will make sure that I am potioned because I want to clear this. I want the best DPS I can afford. We know there's two Rangers, and they're both going to rag tiles because we have reentry, so we need to be cognizant of that. And in this case, we could take Dynamic Duo because it doesn't do anything on this wave. There's no Major, so this is just a free thing to take. But we could also consider taking Volatility 3. It's the same as 2, but it leaves behind a rag tile. But the location that it leaves behind the tile that it rags is irrelevant because it leaves it on the tile that we never stand on. The NPCs stack on that tile anyway, so it doesn't actually mess anything up. We're going to take Dynamic Duo because it doesn't affect the boss at all, and it doesn't affect this wave. We're going to pray range. So we have one Ranger south. We're going to drag. We're going to kill this Berserker. We're going to kill the Mage. And now we're going to dodge that. We rag that one tile. We have to come out here. So in this situation, I don't think I'm going to meet this DPS check because I'm going to be ragging these tiles with volatility. Or with reentry. And this is a good example of why you don't want to take reentry. So this might be a bail to the south pillar angle. So we're going to have to pray flick these. I think that's the last tile that gets ragged. And we have a DPS. But as you can see, this is a good example of why I'm not the biggest fan of reentry on your first cape. Because you're ragging tiles that you need. If we would have ragged this last one, we could have used these two because it happened to be the Mage first, but if you had like Myopia 3 or something, you can see it gets hairy very quickly. He blows up, but it's not a big deal. We'll just eat it. We have SGS, right? We have plenty of yeah, we're back up to full. Or even Sin 2. And obviously if we didn't have Frailty, this would be even easier. But even with Frailty, you can see that this isn't that big of a deal. We've got plenty of supplies. We're at the tail end of the waves, and you only really need like 2 restores for the boss. Here we'll run away. And instead of like figuring out, oh, is this a ranged Manticore, we're just gonna do our south pillar tech. Just run to the south pillar. And they could be ranged, but in this case they weren't, so it was better for us to do the south pillar. So we know that he's gonna rag tiles. So I'm just gonna wait for him to rag, and then I'm gonna melee. he's going to blow up. So we move 2 tiles away. Now, when you have 2 manticores, and you could go to this pillar to only deal with 1 at a time, but I actually want to show you what 2 looks like. They respect each other, so they won't just stack and send, both at the same time. It's one after the other. So it's going to be mage, range, melee, mage, mage, range, melee, mage. That's essentially what that's going to look like, and I'll show you what that looks like here. They always shoot one after the other. Bring 2 tiles away. And I want to start on my tile over here, so I'm just going to drag them. Let them come in. I'll go ahead and drink up my potions. Make sure I'm nice and healthy going into the next wave. There we go. So, Reentry 2, we do not want to take because it's a permanent rag, and as you saw in the last wave, right, that you can run out of space pretty quick. In this case, it's only one ranger going into wave 11, but I know that I just don't even want to be uncomfortable or put in that situation where I might run out of DPS, or not have enough DPS and run out of room. Volatility 3 is the exact same as Volatility 2, except it leaves behind a rag tile, which is fine, because it's only temporary. However, when you combine it with Reentry 2 plus, this rag tile does become permanent, so I would never combine these two. With Reentry 1, you can do it, but not with 2. And Solar Flare, it messes up our solves, but also it affects the boss, which is what these tiles are. You'll have Solar Flare in the boss, which just makes it more complicated, and there's no reason to complicate the boss if you don't need to. So this is the final wave. I'm never going to use range anyway on the boss, so I want to drink my range potion. I want to make sure that I'm max boosted going into this final wave, and we are going to send it with Volatility 3. So nothing south of the pillar, perfect. Repray melee so that we don't get poked. And we know that he's going to explode, so we want to explode him out here. Then we'll do the same thing for the major. We'll drag the major out here, we'll hit him twice. And then we'll do the same thing for the ranger. We drag him out here, and then we SGS, and we make sure that his rag tile is somewhere that is not going to affect us. Now the Primnics are solved. So looking at this looks pretty complex, but we'll deal with this after reinforcements. So we're going to want to stand on this tile to line these guys up perfectly here, so that these reinforcements don't get snagged and stuck. They just walk right up to us. From here, this mage hits us, so we walk one tile back, which traps them in here. And now this is a free solve. If I wanted to use my SGS for some prayer, I can. We can death charge, because why not? And remember, he's going to explode, so I'm going to run 2 away. And you'll see that the rag tile he leaves is right here, but it doesn't matter because we're never stepping there. That's just where all the mobs line up to die. So let's let them line up to die there if they want to. Oh, it's actually in his center tile. My apologies. it's the shaman that will leave a ragtile right here. We'll send another SGS just for good measure. Maybe we get some prayer. Cool, couple prayer points. Oh, I should probably pray mage, huh? That would help. So now we will come all the way over here. And the way to deal with this stack, it looks scary. I don't even have to touch my brews. I could, but I don't have to. I will run to this pillar down here. The reason that I'm starting here is because this guy won't see me if I start all the way west. If I start right on the pillar and run to this tile here, this guy sees me about right here, which stops him from doing what we want him to do from this location. But instead we're going to start west, so he doesn't actually see us until he's right here, and because we're going to be waiting for him on this tile right here. What that's going to do is body block any of these minions that would be east of this pillar get body blocked by him. So we're only dealing with one minion at a time. And I'll show you what that looks like. So once we're safe, we're going to pray range. And the moment that he can see us, he's body blocked everything and we're safe. We're perfectly safe. We can stand on any of these tiles. If we had Myopia 3, we would stand on this tile right here to attack him. I'll just wait for him to rag a tile just to show you. And you would come in here. And you can stand here, you can stand here, you can stand any of these tiles and DPS him down if we had Myopia, but we don't. So we're just chilling, we're going to be safe. Stand out here. Rag tiles that we don't care about. And from here, after we kill him, it's going to unlock these. So we would just pray mage and walk up to the pillar and melee these guys down. We want to use our Blood Fury. We could brew here, but there's no need to. The wave is already solved. We'll just heal up with Blood Fury. And that's it. We pray mage. We right click because we don't want to step out and get blown up for no reason. It's just a waste. And as you can see, I didn't really pray flick, like one tick flick or anything. Literally, I just did some lazy flicking maybe, and I have a ton of supplies left over. I didn't touch a single brew. Blood Fury's just going to do its thing. We've also got SGS. Send that. Boom. 2 tiles away. Kill the next one. SGS because why not? So I've already shown you the double manticore, if just to display what it actually does, but in this case, since I've shown you already, I'm just going to make this super relaxed on myself and just flick this manticore, so I only have to kill one at a time. Lots of downtime. This guy drags to me just like I believe it was the manticore in the earlier waves, and I'm only dealing with one thing at a time. If there happened to be 2 things behind this manticore, you could have 2 things dragging on this north side, and then I would just swing back around the south side of this pillar to deal with a single manticore and not these 2 things. Then I would go back to the southwest pillar to then resolve that stack of 2 things to have one thing attack me. So as you can see, you can get through all of the Colosseum without really having to off-tick prey things very often. You might be put in a weird sticky situation where you might have to once or twice, but it is not a requirement really to get a completion. And it doesn't matter where we kill this guy from because it's going to put us into the boss from wherever. So make sure you just don't have anything dropped on the floor. And we stand 2 tiles away because he blows up. And that's it. That's all of the waves solved. We're going into the boss now. So the boss is pretty simple. He does 2 attacks. I guess those would be his auto attacks. They're spear and shield. The spear has a metallic grinding sound where he thrusts his trident at you, his spear. The shield is like a more silent attack where he will shield slam the ground. If he does spear once, you stand one back. Let's assume this is the boss. Um, you stand one back, and you always want to be in the center because he's a 5x5. You stand on his center tile. That's called the reset tile. If it's spear 1, you step here. If it's spear 2, you step here. If it's shield 1, you step here. If it's shield 2, you step here. Now the benefit of what we're going to do, we're only going to use these 3 tiles because there's an overlap. Specifically this tile, if it's spear 1, we always step here because even if the next attack is shield 1, this tile dodges that. So this tile dodges shield 2, or sorry, shield 1 and spear 2, which will come after spear 1. If he does shield 1 after we step here, we always go 2 back from the center, from the reset tile, it's always 2 back. And that's because this tile protects you from shield 2 and spear 1, so there's an overlap. So we want to make use of that overlap of these 2 tiles, protecting us from 2 different boss attacks. Outside of his auto attack, he can do a parry. The parries are, he will thrust his spirit you 3 times. If he's above 50% HP, it's 3 ticks, and then you have to pray melee and turn it off every 3 ticks. And then if it's sub 50% HP, the first 2 attacks are 3 ticks. The last attack is 4 ticks. It's delayed. The other parry is he will try to rip a piece of clothing off. He'll say like something about your back, your torso, your legs, whatever. You just come to your equipment screen. It helps to have a hotkey bound and just click on it. Instead of saying unequip, it'll say defend for the left click, and you just click it and you're safe. And those are the only attacks. When he reaches certain HP thresholds, I believe it's like 75 or 90%, 75%, 50%, so on and so forth, he'll put some sunspots on the ground that you just don't want to step in. They deal damage over time, kind of like the re-entry molten sand from the ranger. And occasionally you'll have lasers shooting across the stage. It's a 10 tick attack, so you have 10 ticks to just not stand in the laser. If you stand in the laser, it deals like 74 damage, I think, so that'd be a one shot for us. We would just instantly die. But as long as you're in cycle for the boss, it's a pretty free boss. And if you do take damage, you just get back in cycle, and then you just eat while you're doing the, dodging the attacks. It's not a big deal. So I will show you what that looks like. We will pre-potion. We're going to choose Doom here because if you have 5 or less brews, you're not going to survive Doom. You're not going to get to 20 stacks. You'll die well before you run out of brews. Or you run out of brews well before you die to Doom. So Doom is a free pick here. And that's it. You can also SGS, but I'm just going to send Fang because it's DPS. We just want to kill the guy ASAP. The first attack is always 1 back. The next one is always going to be 1 diagonal. And it's spear, so we're going to reset. 1 back. It's going to be 2 back now because he did shield. It's 1 back. See that it overlaps, so now we do diagonal, even if it's shield. We reset, and it's 1 back. Now this is diagonal no matter what. Now it's 2 back. And see how that overlaps with shield 2? So we go diagonal because he just did spear 1. Now we're going to go back 2 because he did shield 1. And that overlaps. And that's the whole boss. That's the whole pattern. So we step back. We got hit. It's not a big deal. When he does that, he stays in the same cycle. So we're going to go 1 back now. And we're in cycle again. Now it's 2 back because he just did shield. This is the parry. Every 3 attacks. We're going to re-potion. Anytime he does a parry, he resets, and it's 1 back. It's shield. So we go 2 back, which overlaps with the shield, or the spear. So now he's going to rag a tile. We're going to go 1 back. So we're going to go 1 back again, because that was the correct one. And I pick my hands, and I'm going to rotate here. Diagonal. Reset. 1 back. Now it's going to be 2 back. Then it's going to be diagonal. And then 2 back because he just did a shield. Diagonal. pairing, and he's above 50%, so it's every 3 ticks. I'm going to reset. So in this case, I don't have any space. I need to rotate and let him drag to me. And now I go diagonal because he just did spear, and now it's 2 back. So you can see, as long as you get back into cycle, he's going to rag a tile. We're going to rotate. We want the space with less stuff on the ground. Diagonal. As long as you stay in cycle, you're always safe. This is sub 50%, so it's slightly longer, as you can see. We just eat, get back safe. We want to turn that off, because if he does the parry again, we want to be able to activate it. And you can't start with the protect melee activated. My hands. This is 2 back. We're safe here from the lasers. It's diagonal. Oh, he's gonna rag a tile. So I would consider rotating. This was not the right place to rotate to. So we're gonna go 2 back. And we can use this corner tile too. It's body. It's 2 back. Two back. He got my feet, but I didn't see it. It's not a big deal. Gonna stand on the opposite diagonal. We'll let him drag to us. Two back. My feet. So you can see, as long as you don't, and we have volatility, so we run away. But you can see, as long as you don't panic, this is it's not a big deal. Like, you just stay in the cycle. As long as you're in the cycle, you're perfectly safe. And we've got our quiver. So that is my quick, pretty simple Colosseum guide. As you can see, like, we made a lot of mistakes there, and we had 12 stacks of Doom. 20, we weren't even close to 20. We would have ran out of these supplies well before 20. And I also did this on 60 HP. And you guys saw throughout the entire waves, I didn't have to touch a single brew. With SGS, with Death Charge, with Lightbearer, you have an abundance of SGS specs. And with the solves that we implement here, you only ever have to tank 1 minute at a time, so you can always pray against it. You're not taking a ton of damage. As long as you just keep yourself simple, it's pretty straightforward. So, with that being said, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you next time.